Good afternoon and welcome to the panel discussion for the week of action against academic misconduct. On behalf of WAAAM'19, we invite you to join us in celebrating the 4th International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating this week. UOWD has been a part of the Center for Academic Integrity since its inception 4 years ago. Although this year there are more than 100 universities taking part in this cause, UOWD is one of the few universities that mark this day. We would like to start our panel discussion today by introducing the panelists. Dr. Prakash Ray, who is a marketing professor at UOWD. Ms. Christina Daveson, who is from Zaid University. Ms. Sanjana Raheja, who is an alumni of UOWD. Mr. Adar Ardekar, who is a current student at UOWD. And Dr. Zeenat Mirza Khan, who is a moderator for today's panel discussion.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. Once again, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for taking time out to be here. We're really excited to have this panel on celebrating the International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating. As Irene explained, we are very proud to be one of the very few institutions in the region to be celebrating this event for the last 4 years. Every time it's been happening. I think, in fact, this year we are one of 3. Last year we were one of 2. The first year we were one of 2. So there is one institution in Oman that also regularly celebrates. The reason I'm mentioning that is because we want more institutions to come on board and start celebrating this on their campuses to become integrity champions so that we can talk about it more and understand why we want to move away from the concept of contract cheating. So just a quick introduction, what is contract cheating? It is when students are basically giving third parties, getting third parties to do their assignments for them. And then typically they will also pay them a certain amount of money to get that work done. It's not something new, it's been there for ages. However, because of globalization and the rate of connectivity that we see today, it's kind of it's shooting up because it's readily accessible. What we also heard interestingly yesterday in the colloquium that we had, a few of the students talked about their student experiences. And they said how they were actually being approached by these companies in very business-like, we are here to support you, we are here to give you this extra help if you're finding subjects difficult. So what happens is they're making it sound very legitimate in a very, way that students think that, okay, it's not cheating. Because then you think, why else would a student knowingly go and use a third-party service when they know this is cheating? So what we understood from a lot of the colloquium speeches were that in fact students sometimes are approached in a certain manner that they look at it as a very harmless, supportive service or function that a company is providing for them. So which was very interesting for us to hear. So it kind of feeds right into the panel that we have today where the topic and the theme is celebrating the spirit of integrity. So we talked about the problems yesterday, now we're talking about the spirit of integrity here. So what I would like to do is probably start off with Sanjana. She's an alumni with UOWD. At the same time, when she was a student, she was the one also organizing the International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating on campus for us. So it's really great to have you here, Sanjana, with us. And I'll just pass on that back to you. So I'd like to know from you, what do you understand by integrity? What is your concept of spirit of integrity?
So, firstly, thank you everyone for making it here. Academic integrity is something which, when I started working with Dr. Zeenat, to be honest, it was just that at that time you had an idea about what the term means, just by hearing the phrase academic integrity. You were never fully registered until I started working with you. So it's basically something where you realize that you need to start taking education seriously, and it's a cause where you need to understand that it works in your favor because you're helping education support you not just in getting marks, which is short term, but also in terms of supporting you in your ethics skills, which is being honest, to be in a nutshell, being very honest, which really helps you in your future growth and success, career-wise, or in any other field possible. So that is what academic integrity, reminds me of when I think of it.
That's a fantastic definition that you've given. So when you were in school, And then when you came to university, what was the difference you saw in the way you understood academic integrity? Was there a difference?
So I came from, so when I was in school, assignments and projects were basically being able to, you were able to write, just be able to type something on the web, type something on Google, and whatever you saw, whether it was Wikipedia, let me say Wikipedia. So you would go to Wikipedia, okay, check out the paragraphs, copy, paste it in your assignment, and get a full 10 out of 10 from the teacher. So that was what we were seeing in school. And when we came to college, so funny thing, when I joined Wollongong, the first subject that I took was English 012. I think the code might have changed, but at that time it was ENG 012. And Dr. Swapna, at that time, she was in charge of the course, and she stressed so much on plagiarism and how Wikipedia is a serious no-no. And it was not just me, everyone else in the lecture hall was so scared. They came out shivering, like, oh my god, I have to do so much work now, and I don't know if I'll even be able to pass an assignment. And in a way, at that time, it was traumatizing to be able to hear that, oh my god, that these are things which are so wrong, and the fact that we actually did that in school was terrifying. So in a way, it was a good thing as well as also traumatizing thing at that time. But in a way, it was a good thing because it really taught us the value of being able to, recognize that education is something which you need to take seriously. And in the end, it also comes with I wouldn't say proud, I would say that pride that, you actually know what you're writing, right? Yeah. And it's your work, and in the end, when you submit your assignment to your lecturer, you should be proud of the fact that this is an assignment which you actually know about, and this is something which is your work, which would seriously help you in, putting it in your portfolio. Like, let's say, for example, in your CV, you've done an assignment which you're really proud of. You can mention this in your CV as well. And you can talk about it in an interview, so which is a super good thing.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And because she said something about how the first experience of knowing that we cannot really use Wikipedia and then you have to cite and you can't plagiarize, the way that puts that student's mind frame. So I'm going to just shift it back to Christina, because she's from education and instructional design background. So Christina, if you could first tell us, what do you understand by integrity, and then maybe we could feedback on what Sanjana's just said.
Sure, yeah. I think one of the things that fascinates me when we talk about academic integrity is everyone immediately goes to cheating, right? And that idea of how can we behave with integrity, and like in what you spoke with your example, when you're genuinely learning, you're behaving with integrity. When you're not genuinely learning or being given assignments that aren't encouraging you to really dig deeply into the topic, then the temptation to find an easy route to copy and paste, to not do the work yourself is so much higher. So I think when I think about the idea of what it means to look at academic integrity, it also, from an instructional design perspective, means what kind of assessments are we giving to students? What is your opportunity to learn through them? Are you going to see value in them? And when you do see value in them, and you're given the space to succeed, right? So I was a little worried when you talked about how scared you were in this class. I don't want to do anything wrong, and can I even do this? Because I think that state of being unsure if you're able to succeed and being unsure if you're able to do the work, that's the space where you're a prime temptation to a company that's going to appear to say, let me help you.
Yeah.
So finding that space where you're challenged enough, but also supported enough that you're going to be able to undertake.
And that's quite interesting, because a lot of the times that's exactly what happens. You hear integrity and academic integrity, the first word that comes to mind is cheating, right? But we are actually moving away from that rhetoric, that kind of narrative, because that does more harm than good anyways, right? So the concept of integrity, like you just explained, is looking at the learning aspect. Am I being able to grasp what I'm being taught? And am I being able to then, reproduce that in the form of an assessment that has been created to test my knowledge? So if we come from that positive narrative, I think that definitely helps the students move away from the whole concept of, oh my God, can I now do this or can I not do this? That also, yesterday in the colloquium we had our counselor who talked about how we are all, in a way, put ourselves in these boxes where we say then that, no, this is it, this is the max that I can do, this is my scope, and I can't go beyond. And when that happens, automatically you've decided you can't do the assignment that's been given to you because that's not for you. You're not going to do good, and you're going to start looking for those alternative ways of trying to get that done. Right? Because we've talked about assessments as well and how we set it up and what kind of ideas that we want to bring into the assessments. I would like to move to Dr. Prakash. Dr. Prakash has initiated this fantastic project in his marketing subject, which I would love him to talk about. First, you can just tell us about integrity and then talk about that.
Right, thank you very much for this opportunity. And it's a platform that I like to use to the best of my knowledge, basically because I've been thinking about this particular topic of integrity for, I should say, for 45 years. Well, I carry a different definition of integrity, which I strongly indicate to my students in all the classes, all the subjects that I teach, both at undergraduate and the postgraduate level, and even at doctoral levels. For me, integrity starts at home. I think integrity is a very, very broad domain, and if one is been properly socialized by the parents as to what exactly is integrity and what is the role played by integrity for societal order, then I think things will go clean and straight. Now, if we were to go for a deeper introspection about this area, at the moment you become an 18 years old child, whether you're going to start your undergraduation or whether you're going to start a vacation by yourself, the first most important principle is without integrity you cannot progress. And if you can ask me, is there any proof? I think at the age of 53 I don't have to go for any other proof other than my own life. I've seen people, I've seen people at the age of 18 who have been having a life with least integrity, and I saw the life later on at the age of 40 as to how much they had to suffer. So integrity is, I should say, the first important role of integrity is for you to become an appropriate social citizen in any country that you live, number one. Number two, integrity need not be thought about only from a professional standpoint. It can be very well looked at from a civilian standpoint, from a social standpoint. For an example, I would even say a person who comes late to a class is having some integrity issues, in the sense that you're paying for that particular course, and please understand the money that you pay for that particular course is not paid by you, it is paid by your parents. So if you are late, then you're creating disruptions for many other professionals around you. It might be the lecturer, it might be your co-students, and when a student comes into a class late, I don't try to tell him, I don't give a piece of my mind straight to him, but when I get an opportunity, I would say that, do you know the damages that you've done because of your late coming? So integrity issues should be solved. A nip in the bud is a better strategy. So as an academic, I think we do play an important role in nipping the bud. It might be taken as harsh by students, but as academics, we belong to a community where our role is more of creating social order through creating people with the most integrity. Number two, I would even say a person who is not driving at the appropriate speed in the road also suffers from integrity. Because every lack of integrity creates so many disruptions to the members of the society. And one person who deviates from the set norms in terms of integrity might do it for his or her own happiness, but it creates a lot of disruptions. They may not get paid at the right time, but the day will come that they will be paid. Irrespective of whether they get paid or not. As academics, I first of all appreciate Dr. Zina to have taken this initiative of showcasing the role of academic integrity. To me, a student who does contract cheating gets into a felony. It's a second order crime, and we call it as an academic crime. And there can be nothing worse when you try to steal the intellectual property of another person and try to attribute it as if it is yours, number one. And the worst ever possibility is trying to get the intellectual property of a third person who is again stealing on the intellectual property of another group of people, and who is finally being brought to the table of a lecturer. Lecturers, we can do the task of policing, but policing only to the extent of correcting the student. But the robber, any number of police cannot reduce robbery unless and until the robber wants to change.
Yeah.
So the basic impetus to change should come in the minds of the students, and I believe students should give a good opportunity, and institutions should give a good opportunity for academics to stand for the cause of integrity in all aspects of it. Might it be in terms of academics, might it be in terms of the way you live, might it be even in the terms of way you speak in a class. When a particular student, when a lecturer is taking class, you should please understand, put yourself in the shoes of the lecturer. He or she has not really prepared homework and is not regurgitating concepts, but is trying to create lives for the people who are listening to them. And when that sort of a respect and importance has not been maintained by a student, and the student keeps talking with another student, or the student treats the academic with disrespect in the way they ask a question, or the way they behave with the academic, we still are very patient to bear it. Why? Because of your tender age. So I think, Dr. Zina, you have started a very good cause, and as I had indicated, it should be in the fabric of your life. It cannot be an option in your life. It should be a fabric on your life, because at universities, or any education institution for that matter, we are not here to just disseminate knowledge, because Google is there already, which is giving you enough of knowledge. So we are not going to replace that role. But what role we play in an institution which cannot be replaced by Google is the role of being a paternal guide to the students. And in that way, I think we strongly stand as ambassadors for ethics as well as for integrity. And I'm very proud to have this badge. I was just telling Dr. Zina that more than any other decision that I will have got, I feel very happy to have this badge.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much, Zina.
Thank you. Continue on that thread, going back to what Christina said about how important it is as faculty to then design its structure, like the assessments, so that that actually initiates critical thinking in students rather than just copying and pasting it or just getting it from somewhere. So we do want to talk about that assignment of yours that you have, it's kind of redefined marketing for a lot of students on campus. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how that has impacted students and how they bring about originality in the assessments that they do?
My intention or my philosophy of teaching is always that it is not only meant for an academic to be a guide for already a distant relative of Albert Einstein. And because there are many members who are already blessed with a very high level of intelligence, but there are also the last benchers who would need guidance, who would need advice on how to progress in life. Education is step one, but progressing in life and contributing to the society is step two, and that's the destination. So I say that way as an academic teaching marketing by God's grace over a considerable number of 25 years, more than that. I started my career in the industry, I was area managing marketing, and then I moved into academics. Probably because one of the regional sales managers was constantly indicating me, Prakash, you can also make a teacher. I don't know what the intention he had in his mind, but then finally got into academics. After having got into academics, the strongest indication was when we train students, particularly in the domain of marketing, are they having enough amount of skill sets to face the industry, particularly in terms of the realities that are associated. Well, we started from, I started from a non-computer era, and now I'm in an era where students, even if you cut oxygen, they can stand, but not Facebook. Yeah. So see that way, in this particular stage, my constant interest was to find out, to bring out the practical, creative insight of students, which is quintessential in the domain of marketing. So seeing that way, I started an initiative called the Industry Academy Interface and Classroom Initiative. Now, apart from engaging the industry to come to academia only to the extent of having a panel or a focus group session, I wanted the engagement to be taken to a grander scale. So seeing that way, I named this initiative as Industry Academia Interface in Classroom. So where the industry comes into the classroom, meaning I wanted my students to work on projects which are live projects. So if a student does a particular course, might it be an undergraduate course or a postgraduate course, I wanted the final project to to be done for a live brand or set of live brands which are there in the industry, and to face the line with the dead. I wanted them to directly give the presentation to the corporate managers and for them to critically analyze it. But my role as an academic, see, the end is an interesting awarding ceremony, but the 13 weeks is a rigorous journey for two people there. One is the teacher, meaning the lecturer, myself, and my tutor. And before the semester starts, 5 weeks before the semester starts, I sit with my tutor to exactly plan what is going to take us in the next 13 weeks. I go to the industry trying to find out their needs and then translate everything into the subject outline. The types of cases that I have in my tutorials are all based upon the project that they're going to do. So seeing that way, a sufficient strong homework takes place well before the semester starts. Step one. Step two, in the 13 weeks, it is not only dissemination of knowledge, but these are young minds. These are very creative minds. I mean, if you give them the right trigger, I mean, they can become consultants to Steve Jobs if he had been alive. Yeah. So seeing that way, these people have wonderful minds, but it is up to us to develop them later. So my 13 weeks journey is basically to instill confidence, to bring out that one creative side which the student himself or herself would not have known. So seeing that way, it has to be brought out, and by God's grace, this is my 4th initiative. We had 3 awarding ceremonies. Can I just share one incident which a father of a child came to me and told. This child would never be having the courage to even talk with a nearby classmate of hers. And the father was so feeling bad that he came once and said, my girl does not even have the courage to talk with her own relatives, forget the students, forget the classmates. I said, you leave it to me and you should not disturb the child for the next 3 months. That same child I had trained for 3 months together, giving her repeated sessions on how to present, how to overcome your stage fear, and this girl finally was asked to present before Pune. She did it. And that to me is what a teacher can do. So in this initiative, we have developed minds, and it is not just about inviting 16 companies or allowing our students to do projects with the companies. When we take a project with multinationals, we take a big risk on that because the university's name is at stake, the lecturer's name is at stake. So we do a very thorough exercise of preparation and then sit with the students. The 13 weeks is mainly meant to give them moral motivation. So seeing that way, my feeling is, as an academic, if supposing we give them a proper platform to understand integrity and to feel how much integrity plays a role in society and your personal lives, I think nothing like that. Thanks.
And I think as a current student, I think I'll move to Athar because it's very important to understand from a student's perspective when a faculty creates an assignment such as this, what does that mean for you guys, especially when it concerns integrity? So maybe start with what you understand to be integrity and then follow on through.
Again, thank you so much for inviting me on this, and thank you everyone for attending it. So just in a basic general terminology, for me, integrity is being honest with yourself. And it starts with you critically evaluating how you want to go about things, how you actually think and evaluate yourself, how you present yourself to people, and how you actually think about performing the task which you do. All of it depends on how much of integrity you have within yourself. So again, I think like what Sanjay had also mentioned, I just had to connect to that. It depends on how you think and evaluate when you enter the university, when you have new subjects in front of you, when you have new tasks, new deadlines to meet. It all depends on how you approach them, and it depends on your mindset. For example, all of us come from a school background wherein we don't have much to do. You just go and Google, type out the research name, and then you get the content out. What university does for you in terms of integrity is it talks about avoiding plagiarism, which is one of the most important things to do nowadays. So that actually helps you look into yourself, it helps you develop yourself, develop the research skills, develop the way you present yourself, and that's what builds up the courage between a person that, yes, I do have integrity within myself, I know how to present myself, and that's how I would like to be. That's how we would like to take things on forward, because what you do in your university, what you do in your school life, and the way you've been brought up is what you present to the world outside. Multinationals nowadays, they don't just look at the way you have studied, or they don't just look at your marks. They look at how you present yourself and how you actually stand out to the others who are already there. Because for any company, you might have 10 people outside for interviews, but then the 1 or 2 whom they actually select are the ones who know to market themselves, the ones who know the right matter of how you go about things. So that, I think, in that integrity plays a very big role, and that's how you develop yourself into being the person who you want to look at in the future.
And so coming back to the assignments, so when you get as a student assignments where it says just go write an essay for 2,000 words versus an assignment where you're actually going to be involved with the industry and actually applying your concepts and figuring out a solution, how does that impact you as a student and the kind of values that you take away from an assessment like that?
So again, it's all depending on the critical thinking which a person does. Whenever you are presented with an assignment to do, it's depending on how you actually approach it and how you want to go about it. It's not only depending on the marks you want to get, it's about the knowledge you want to gain with it. Because marks in the end is just going to be some numbers on the paper. What you gain when you graduate from a university is the amount of knowledge and the amount of techniques you have to conquer the world outside and make a name for yourself. So going into the deep aspects of the assignments, most of our subjects, from the ones I have till nowadays in my 2 years of university, all of them have some of the other essays to do, some of the other presentations to do. And the most important part of this is you need to do referencing. Referencing has become such a big part of this that it recognizes the work you've done, it gives recognition to the person you've taken the work from, be it you just gliding through it or be it just, using the information throughout your presentation in it. So that proves to be something of an icebreaker for people, because that allows them to actually go into depth and think about topics. And when you do that, you actually gain in-depth knowledge about what you're researching on. Talking about Dr. Prakash's initiative, what he had done, I have been a part of that initiative last semester, and for me, that was something which I had never expected to when I actually joined university, because I have never heard something of that sort. When I was first introduced to it, I was so excited that you're going to go out in the world, you're going to meet real life professionals who actually translated businesses for such long times. How are you going to be able to present their product to themselves in their offices? So it's you who is the outsider over here, and then it's going to be them who are going to be not exactly judging you, but looking at you in a way, looking at the way you present yourself. So this kind of proves to be something which which gets on your nerves too, because you're very sometimes reluctant to go on and do it. But again, it depends on how you approach it and how confident you are about yourself. So this kind of thing also again helps ignite integrity in some who have, for example, not been following that to a certain extent, or who have been on and off in doing it. So that really proves to be something very important in life.
That's fantastic. Yes.
I think I find it really fascinating to see when you've got a really well-designed assessment, like what you've talked about, how that just changes the entire trajectory of a course. And I think that's one of the things that as universities, some of our responsibility lies there to look to say, when we look at the design of our programs, how can we ensure those sorts of meaningful experiences are happening throughout? Because I think as much as I'd love to, I think one of the issues with integrity is it sounds like it's always a black and white decision, and it's really not, right? If I was running a little bit late while I was driving here, am I going to speed a bit? It's just a bit, I'm not going to get caught. There's always these little gray choices that we get to make. But when you have an assessment that's well designed, like this one that you talked about, there's an authentic audience at the end of it. It's not just the instructor that's going to say, yes, you passed, no, you failed, right? You're the one that's going to have to stand there and do that presentation to the professionals. That kind of, and the kind of coaching and preparation that you've put in place to be able to help support students, that combination, that's the kind of assessment design that convinces people, nudges people to act with integrity.
Automatically what that is, it takes away that concept of putting yourself in a box, because you're no longer in a box, right? And you're pushed out of that box, so you have to go out and find out for yourself what that solution is, so that you can present it to the professionals. And just because we're talking about professionals, just moving on to Sanjana, because in her company she started citing in her slides and telling other people how referencing becomes so important. So could you tell us from that perspective how understanding integrity and capturing those values has actually helped you in your workplace?
So before I start with a personal example, think about it. From all of the things which were mentioned earlier, it's not just about marks, right? I mean, think about it from an employer's perspective. Why do employers want to see high marks from a degree that you've gotten? It shows you that, it basically shows that you were dedicated to towards being able to work towards earning those marks. At the same time, it also shows that they also want to be able to see that you have worked the right way to be able to get those marks, isn't it? So if you get a good mark in your, whether you get a good mark or a mark which you might feel that you could have gotten more, it's not just about marks. You need to be able to show them that you were dedicated towards getting those marks in the right way, correct? So that's where integrity comes into perspective. So it's not just at the stage of being able to present yourself as a dedicated person to a company. It also goes much more into how do you portray yourself as a dedicated and as an ethical person at day-to-day jobs. Day-to-day jobs or in your day-to-day role in your company itself. So let's say, for example, I'll take the example of the marketing department within the company. Yeah, you will see that they will mostly be, required to prepare content, present content, create ads that will be directly in competition with the other markets as well, other competitors as well. So you will see that it is in that states very specifically where you're required to create ads which are most authentic, which are coming in from your work, because there are going to be very dire consequences if you're going to be taking your competitors' ads and then citing them as your own, which is going to be very detrimental both to the company as well as for your future as well, right? So that is where in the workplace you will find most examples where it is required to show your integrity, reference your ads, and because referencing again not just is good for not just helps you shape your academics, it also helps you shape your future term as well. So if you reference your slides, you reference the content which goes in your slide from the point perspective, from the bullet points perspective, as well as from the design perspective. You need to be able to understand that your integrity goes a long way in showing that how your work is yours as well. And in a way, it's extremely good because later on in life, you can also be able to show this in your portfolio and say that, hey, this was what I did in my previous company, this is what I'm doing right now. It's your work in the end, and it helps you very proudly talk about it. So that's my answer to Thank you.
Sometimes I just want to talk about one incident, or let's say one frequent instance that happens in an academic's life. Students, after they graduate from the university, whether it be an undergraduate or a postgraduate course, they come back to us asking for a reference letter. And I have a policy already. I tell this to all my students. If at all you need to get a reference letter from me, I need two conditions. One, you should have at the minimum got a distinction in the subject that I teach. Number two, I need to have enough data to understand your integrity and character. Because in my reference letter, the last statement will be about your integrity and honesty. And I am blatantly clear on that. I have seen students who might have got good marks, but then I don't have anything to comment on the second aspect of it. So I explicitly indicate that I don't have much to comment about the integrity or the character of the applicant. And I leave it for the person to make a decision. It's basically because we don't want people who can come to the society without any integrity, but out of hook or crook has made an achievement and finally wanted to brand themselves out of that achievement. And these are the people who are going to disturb corporate life. If these people become managers, what sort of an integrity do you expect from them in corporate life? And don't you also feel that this will affect other members who won't join the corporate life? One sore apple is enough. So this is one more important aspect is, even when I ask my students to prepare their peer review form in reflection reports, I tell them very clearly, supposing if you're given a task of giving marks to your group members based on the contribution, if it is 10 marks, let's say, usually there's a sort of a tendency to have a collusion.
Yeah.
To say that all of us will give 10 for each. But I tell them very clearly, please don't expect me to go blindly by the box that you fill up. I will read the written comments. Based on that, we'll do. And I also take attendance in the lectures and the graduate. whether it is needed or not, I take attendance. Why? Because at a later point of time, if supposing someone comes to me to find out, say a company comes to me to find out, can you give a comment about this particular student? I want to have confidence in knowledge as a teacher because they are believing on us. So please understand, even in your peer review form, if a particular group member, he or she has not contributed, do not fall a prey for collusion and give a mark to them, because you are not doing any favor to them, you are spoiling their future, you are spoiling their career. Yes, ma'am.
And truly, that is the spirit of integrity, isn't it? It's so holistic. We can't look at it as a tunnel vision and only say it's about assignments and academics. It is about everything. And just going back to something Dr. Prakash said about how it starts at home, right? I'm such a fighter when it comes to my daughter's school, because right from start they would give her assignments where they expected the parents to do it. And here's the problem with that, right? So you do the assignment for your child or your younger brother or sister. They walk into their class for show and tell with that project, and then they say, my project. So we've effectively actually just taught them contract cheating. That it's okay to take somebody else's work and say it's mine. It's okay to get somebody else to do my work and still take credit for it. So it's things like this that actually makes that concept of integrity so holistic and so important. And I think with that we come to a conclusion for the panel. Thank you so much everybody for your time. And I think we really hit home the whole concept on the faculties, but definitely again on the students themselves and their families back home. So thank you once again everybody for your time, and we really appreciate that you've been here and you took the time out to be a part of the panel. Thank you.